It was meant to be the happiest day of Emily Carter's life. As she began walking down the aisle, glowing with joy and holding back tears, everything seemed perfect. But then, something no one could have imagined happened. At the end of the aisle stood Buddy, her loyal German shepherd, blocking her way. He was growling, tense, and refusing to move. The guests murmured in confusion. "Whose dog is that?" someone whispered. "It's Hayes," another guest answered softly. "That's Buddy. She's raised him since he was a puppy." Emily froze. Why was Buddy here? And why was he acting like this? Before anyone could react, Buddy barked sharply and lunged toward the groom. The ceremony erupted into chaos. Guests screamed. The music stopped, and Emily's heart pounded. Everyone thought Buddy had gone mad, until his instinct exposed a secret no one could have guessed, one that would break Emily's heart in the moments to come. Stay with me until the end, because what Buddy did next will absolutely leave you speechless. But first, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And tell us, where are you watching from? I love seeing how far our stories reach. The morning had started beautifully at the Carter family home. Sunlight poured through the windows, painting the white walls in shades of gold. Birds sang softly outside as laughter and the sound of silk gowns filled the air. It was a perfect wedding morning, full of nerves, love, and excitement. In her room, Emily stood in front of the mirror. Her ivory dress shimmered in the light, the fabric pooling gracefully around her feet. Her hands trembled slightly as she fastened the pearl earrings her mother had given her. "You look like an angel," whispered her best friend, Sarah, her eyes misty. Emily smiled, her heart racing. She had imagined this moment since childhood. The music, the flowers, the promise of forever. Everything felt right, almost. From the corner of the room came a low whine. Buddy sat near the door, his eyes fixed on her, body tense. He'd been with her for 6 years, through college, heartbreaks, and countless lonely nights. He was more than a pet. He was family. But today, something about him was off. His ears were back, his gaze sharp and uneasy. "Buddy," Emily said softly, kneeling down carefully so her gown wouldn't wrinkle. "What's wrong, boy?" She stroked his fur gently, but he didn't wag his tail. Instead, he stood up, sniffed the air, and let out a quiet growl as he looked toward the window. Her mother, busy arranging flowers, gave a small laugh. "He's just excited," she said. "Dogs can tell when something big's happening." Emily nodded, trying to believe it. But deep down, she felt something wasn't right. Buddy wasn't nervous. He was on guard, and his instinct had never failed her before. She remembered the night he wouldn't stop barking until she checked the kitchen. The oven had been left on. Or the time he growled at a man who had followed her home, a man who was late to court for robbery. Buddy always sensed danger. But this was her wedding day. Nothing bad could happen today. Her bridesmaids gathered around, adjusting her veil and bouquet as the room buzzed with joy. Outside, the car waited, decorated with ribbons fluttering in the breeze. The photographer snapped one last photo. Still, Buddy wouldn't calm down. He paced near the door, his tail stiff, eyes full of worry. When the car horn honked, signaling it was time to go, Buddy let out a soft, mournful bark. Emily paused, turned, and smiled gently. "Don't worry, boy. I'll be back soon," she said. But as she left the room, her veil flowing behind her, Buddy stayed at the door, completely still, watching her leave with an expression that felt almost like a warning. Something deep inside him knew this was not going to be an ordinary wedding day. The morning breeze carried the scent of roses as Emily stepped outside, unaware that everything she believed about love and trust was about to change forever. Her gown shimmered softly in the morning sun. The bridal car waited by the gate, ribbons swaying gently in the breeze. Everything looked perfect, except for Buddy. The German shepherd stood stiff beside the porch steps. It was alert, tail low, eyes locked on Emily's every move. His food bowl by the kitchen door was still full. He hadn't touched a single bite, something he had never done before. "Buddy, come on," Emily said softly, reaching out her hand. "You need to eat something, boy." But Buddy didn't budge. He just stared at her, his eyes filled with something that looked almost like worry. Then, out of nowhere, he let out a low, deep growl, staring past Emily's shoulder. Startled, she turned. Her fiancé's best man, Ryan, had just walked through the front gate, smiling and holding his phone. "Good morning, bride-to-be," he called cheerfully. Buddy's growl grew louder. He stepped forward, positioning himself protectively in front of Emily, his fur rising along his back. "Whoa, easy there, pal," Ryan said with a nervous laugh, holding up his hands. "Guess he's just a little overprotective." Emily's mother quickly stepped in, patting Buddy's head. "He's not used to visitors this early," she said lightly, though her eyes flicked uneasily toward her daughter. Emily crouched down, gently touching Buddy's collar. "It's okay, boy. Ryan's a friend." But Buddy didn't relax. His body stayed tense, his breathing quick and shallow. After a long moment, he gave a reluctant whine and slowly backed away, but his eyes never left Ryan's face. Ryan cleared his throat and forced a chuckle. "I'll see you all at the church," he said, retreating toward his car. Buddy stayed alert, watching until Ryan's car disappeared down the street. Then he trotted back to the porch, pacing in slow, anxious circles. Emily sighed, shaking her head. "He's been acting so strange all morning," she murmured. Her mother hesitated. "You know, dogs can sense things we can't. Maybe he feels something's not right." Emily smiled weakly. "He just doesn't like the idea of sharing me today." She bent down, kissing the top of his head. "You'll always be my first boy, okay?" But Buddy didn't respond like he usually did. No happy bark, no wagging tail, just a quiet, almost haunted look in his eyes. As Emily climbed into the bridal car, Buddy sat down on the driveway, watching her go. The morning light glinted off his collar, and for a brief second it looked as if tears shimmered in his eyes. He could feel it. Something terrible was waiting at that church. The soft hum of the vintage car echoed through the quiet lane. Emily gazed out the window, her fingers clutching her bouquet tightly. The city passed in a blur, ribbons, smiling faces, flashes of sunlight breaking through the morning haze. Every few seconds, she found herself smiling. "I'm really getting married," she whispered under her breath. But beneath the joy was a strange heaviness she couldn't shake. Buddy's troubled eyes lingered in her thoughts. It wasn't nerves. It felt like a warning. Cold feet, the driver teased kindly, noticing her silence. Emily smiled faintly. "Just thinking," she said softly, "about my dog." "The big shepherd," the driver chuckled. "I saw him this morning. Looked like he wanted to come with you." Her smile faded. "Yeah, I think he did." The car turned the final corner, revealing St. Mary's Church ahead, its tall spire gleaming under the sun, bells ringing joyfully in the distance. Guests were already gathering outside, taking pictures, waving as the bridal car approached. The air buzzed with laughter, excitement, and love. But just as the car slowed near the steps, a loud bark shattered the calm. Emily's heart jumped. She turned and froze. Buddy, he was running across the courtyard, fur glinting in the sunlight, leash dragging behind him, eyes wide with urgency. People gasped and moved aside as he sprinted straight toward the car. "Oh my God, Buddy!" Emily cried. The driver hit the brakes. Buddy skidded to a stop right in front of the vehicle, barking wildly, his tail stiff, his ears pinned flat. He circled the car once, barking louder each time. Then Buddy stopped right outside the church doors, whining and pawing at them, his claws scraping against the wood. The wedding planner hurried over, her face tight with panic. "Whose dog is this? Someone get it out of here." Before anyone could move, Emily opened the door herself. "Wait! Here's mine," she said quickly, stepping out, her veil fluttering in the morning breeze. "Buddy, what are you doing here?" Buddy barked once, loud, sharp, and commanding, then turned his eyes toward the church entrance. A low growl rumbled in his chest, deep and warning. It sent a chill straight through Emily's spine. The crowd began to whisper. "Is that the bride's dog?" someone murmured. "Why is he barking like that?" Emily knelt down, trying to calm him, but Buddy wouldn't relax. His body stayed tense, his eyes darting between her and the church doors, as if pleading with her not to go inside. Her mother stepped out of the next car, frowning. "Emily, what on earth is happening?" I don't know," Emily stammered, her heart racing. "He must have followed us here." Buddy barked again, his tone sharp, urgent. This time his gaze fixed squarely on Ryan, the best man, who had just walked through the church doors. In that moment, the laughter and chatter faded. The sunny morning suddenly felt heavy and cold. Something wasn't right. Inside St. Mary's Church, soft organ music filled the air. Golden light streamed through stained glass windows, scattering colors across the polished marble floor. Guests whispered excitedly, unaware of the unease growing outside. Emily stood frozen near the entrance, clutching a bouquet so tightly her knuckles turned white. Buddy's barking echoed through the church, each sound more desperate than the last. The wedding planner whispered urgently, "Emily, we need to start. The guests are waiting. Please, just leave the dog outside." Emily's chest tightened. She looked down at Buddy, who stood beside her, rigid and silent now, eyes locked on something, or someone, inside. Following his gaze, Emily's eyes landed on Ryan. He was near the altar, adjusting his tie and pretending not to notice the commotion. But there was something strange about his face, a stiffness, a flicker of nervousness that made Emily's stomach twist. "Buddy," she whispered under her breath. "What's wrong?" Buddy's ears flattened. A low growl rumbled from his throat. Her mother came up quietly, resting a hand on Emily's shoulder. "Sweetheart, everyone's waiting. Maybe he's just overwhelmed. Let me take him to the car." But as she reached for his leash, Buddy barked sharply, stepping back, his body positioned protectively in front of Emily. His eyes never left Ryan. At the altar, the priest cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" The whispers died down. All eyes turned toward Emily. She forced a shaky smile. "It's fine," she said softly, though even she didn't believe it. She turned to Buddy, knelt, and whispered, "Stay here, okay? I'll be right back." Buddy whimpered, pressing his head gently against the gown, as if begging her not to go. Then he sat still, tail low, watching as she stepped inside. The great wooden doors closed behind her with a dull echo. For a moment, silence hung in the air. Then the music started again, soft and slow. Guests rose from their seats. The ceremony had begun. Outside, Buddy didn't move. He sat by the doors, ears alert, growling softly every time a sound echoed from inside. It was as though he knew whatever was happening beyond those walls would change everything. Inside the church, the music swelled, a gentle, dreamy melody that filled the air. The massive wooden doors opened once again, revealing the bride bathed in golden light. Emily took a deep breath. Her veil shimmered. Her bouquet trembled slightly in her hands. This was it, the moment she'd dreamed of since childhood. She took her first step forward. Her heels clicked softly against the marble floor. The crowd sighed in admiration. Cameras flashed. Then a single bark echoed outside. Loud, sharp, and unmistakable. Emily's heart skipped a beat. She hesitated for a second, forcing a smile as she continued down the aisle. But the bark came again, louder, more urgent. The heavy church doors rattled behind her. Guests began to glance around in confusion. The priest shifted nervously, and then the doors burst open. Buddy charged into the church. Gasps filled the air. The organist's hands froze on the keys. The music cut off. Murmurs turned into shouts. Emily's bouquet nearly slipped from her trembling hands. "Buddy," she whispered, her voice breaking. The German shepherd sprinted down the aisle, barking furiously, his eyes blazing with determination. He stopped right in front of her, blocking her path. His body quivered with tension, teeth bared, but not at her. He was staring straight ahead. At the altar, chaos rippled through the room. Some guests stepped back, others reached for their phones. The priest raised his hands. "Get that dog out of here," someone yelled. But Emily didn't move. She looked into Buddy's eyes, and in that moment, she knew this wasn't panic. This wasn't confusion. Buddy was trying to protect her. Something, or someone, inside that church wasn't what it seemed. Buddy stopped outside Emily's door, whining and scratching at it. The wedding planner rushed over, flustered. "Whose dog is this? Someone get it out of here." Emily quickly opened the door. "Wait, he's mine," she said, stepping out carefully, her veil catching the breeze. "Buddy, what are you doing here?" The German shepherd barked once, sharp, alert, then fixed his gaze on the church doors. His growl was low and deep, enough to send a chill through Emily's spine. Guests began to whisper. Phone's already up. Is that the bride's dog? Someone murmured. Why is he barking like that? Emily knelt to calm him, but Buddy stayed tense, staring at the church like he was warning her not to go inside. Her mother arrived, frowning. Emily, what's going on? I don't know, Emily stammered. He followed us here. Buddy barked again, his eyes locked on Ryan, the groom's best man, who had just walked through the church doors. In that instant, the music and laughter faded. The bright morning air turned cold. Something was wrong. Inside St. Mary's, soft organ music filled the room. Golden light poured through the stained glass, coloring the marble floor. Guests chatted quietly, unaware of the tension outside. Emily stood frozen near the entrance, bouquet trembling in her hands. Buddy's barking echoed down the aisle, each bark louder, more desperate. The wedding planner whispered, "We have to start. Emily, please, just leave the dog outside." Emily turned to Buddy, who stood rigid, staring straight ahead. His eyes were locked on Ryan. The man adjusted his tie and avoided looking their way. But his stiff posture made Emily uneasy. "Buddy, what's wrong?" she whispered. Her mother placed a hand on her shoulder. "Sweetheart, people are waiting. Maybe he's just overwhelmed. I'll take him to the car." As she reached for Buddy's leash, the dog barked sharply and stepped back, blocking her. His eyes never left Ryan. The priest cleared his throat from the altar. "Shall we begin?" Emily forced a shaky smile. "It's fine," she whispered, though she didn't believe it. She knelt, meeting Buddy's eyes. "Stay here, okay? I'll be right back." Buddy whimpered softly, pressing his head against the dress before sitting down. As the church doors closed behind her, he stayed still, watching. The ceremony began. Music swelled. Guests rose. Emily appeared at the entrance, glowing in her white gown. Cameras flashed. But before she could take her third step, a sharp bark echoed from outside. Then another, louder. The doors rattled. The organist froze. Then the doors burst open. Buddy charged in, barking furiously as gasps filled the church. "Buddy!" Emily cried. The German shepherd sprinted down the aisle, stopping right in front of her. His body trembled, teeth bared, but not at her. His eyes were locked on the altar. Chaos broke out. Guests panicked. The priest raised his hands. "Get that dog out of here," someone yelled. Emily's father rushed forward, trying to grab Buddy's collar. "Buddy, stop it, boy." But Buddy growled, planting himself between Emily and the altar. Michael, the groom, stepped forward, angry. "He's ruining everything. Get him out." Buddy's growl deepened, his eyes still on Michael. "Buddy, please," Emily whispered, her hand shaking. When their eyes met, she saw it. Fear, not aggression. He was warning her. Buddy nudged her back gently, urging her away from the aisle. The priest hesitated. "Maybe we should pause the ceremony." Michael snapped. "It's just a dog. Someone drag it out." But Buddy barked again, louder, almost desperate. Then he lunged, not to attack, but toward Michael, sniffing and growling near his jacket pocket. Emily's father tried again to grab him, but Buddy twisted free, focused completely on Michael. "Michael," Emily said, her voice trembling. "What's going on?" He forced a smile, sweat forming at his temple. "Your dog's gone crazy, that's all." But she could see it, the nervous tremor in his hands, the way he clutched his jacket as if hiding something. "Please," Emily whispered, tears in her eyes. "Stop shouting. He's never like this. Something's wrong." The guests whispered, filming everything. The priest's voice shook. "Let's take a moment." Buddy barked again, circling protectively in front of Emily. His eyes followed Michael's every move. Then he froze. His ears twitched. He sniffed the air and gave one final growl, deep, chilling, certain. Emily's stomach twisted. "Michael, what's in your pocket?" Michael went still. "Nothing," he said too quickly. The crowd gasped. Buddy barked again, louder than before. And in that moment, Emily finally understood. Buddy wasn't being disobedient. He was trying to save her. Something about Michael's reaction didn't feel right, like he was hiding something he desperately didn't want anyone to see. The air inside the church grew heavy, thick with tension. Emily's bouquet trembled in her hands as she stared at him. Her heart was pounding so hard she could barely breathe. The man standing before her no longer looked like the one she thought she was marrying. His jaw was tight, his fists clenched, and his eyes darted nervously toward the whispering crowd. Buddy's growls deepened, more urgent now. The German shepherd stood tall and alert, his body rigid, eyes locked on Michael. He stepped forward slowly, sniffing the ground, the air, every instinct telling him something was wrong. "Get him away from me!" Michael suddenly shouted, his voice cracking with fear. "Michael, please," Emily said softly. "He's trying to tell us something." "This is ridiculous." Michael snapped, his voice rising. "You're all standing here letting a dog ruin the most important day of our lives." The priest lifted a shaking hand. "Everyone, please, let's stay calm." Before he could finish, Buddy lunged. A wave of gas filled the church as the dog leapt forward, not toward Michael's face, but at his jacket. There was a sharp tear of fabric, then a metallic clink as something small rolled across the marble floor. Emily froze. The church fell silent. All eyes turned to the object that had come to rest in the center of the aisle. A tiny glass vial, sealed with a silver cap. Buddy barked furiously, stepping in front of Emily again, his growl echoing through the church. Michael went pale. It's nothing," he stammered. "It's medicine. Just medicine." The priest stepped down from the altar, carefully picking up the vial. He turned it over in his hand, brow furrowed. "Medicine," he repeated quietly. "Then why is it unlabeled?" Michael's voice quivered. "It's for my anxiety. I forgot the label." Whispers rippled through the crowd. Phones lifted. Cameras flashed. Buddy barked again, one sharp, commanding sound that made everyone fall silent. He wasn't attacking. He was protecting. Emily's mother reached forward, her voice trembling. "Emily, honey, step back." Michael took a slow step toward her instead. "Emily, please, listen to me." Buddy growled, stepping between them again, his teeth just visible, a clear warning. The priest turned the vial in his hand. "This doesn't look like medicine," he said, "and it smells chemical." Gas spread through the church. People exchanged uneasy glances. Michael's composure broke completely. His voice rose, raw with panic. "You don't understand. You don't know what you're doing." But it was too late. The truth was slipping through the cracks. Buddy, loyal, fearless Buddy, had forced it into the open. The room went dead silent. Only the faint sound of the vial clinking in the priest's trembling hands broke the stillness. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass, casting color across the glass vial, and revealing a faint, cloudy liquid inside. It shimmered strangely when the light hit it. "What is this?" the priest murmured. Buddy stood motionless now, fur bristling, eyes fixed on Michael. His body was tense but steady, like his job was done. Michael's face drained of color. He reached forward with shaking hands. "It's nothing dangerous. Please, just give it back. It's private." But the priest stepped back. "Private or not, Mr. Collins," he said firmly, "you brought this into a church. And judging by your behavior, I think we all deserve an explanation." A low wave of whispers spread through the crowd. Emily's pulse thundered in her ears. "Michael," she said softly, her voice breaking, "why do you have that? What's in it?" He opened his mouth, but no words came. Sweat trickled down his temple. "It's medicine. For a condition," he said weakly. The priest shook his head. "Medicine doesn't smell like this." He brought the vial closer, then recoiled in horror. "This smells like a chemical compound." Gasps filled the church. Buddy barked once, sharp and final. Emily took a step back, tears filling her eyes. "Michael," she whispered, "tell me the truth." His expression twisted, fear giving way to anger. "You don't understand," he shouted. "I didn't mean any harm." Emily's mother covered her mouth. "Oh, my God," she whispered. And for the first time, Emily realized Buddy hadn't just saved her wedding. He might have saved her life. The priest carefully placed a small glass vial on the altar, his hands trembling. "We need to call security," he said, his voice unsteady. Before anyone could move, Michael lunged toward the altar, but Buddy jumped in front of him, growling fiercely. The sound echoed through the church like a warning from deep within. "Buddy, no!" Emily screamed. But Buddy didn't attack. He just stood his ground, guarding Emily from a man she thought she knew. 2 security guards burst into the room, grabbed Michael's arms, and pulled him back as he struggled. "You don't understand," he shouted, desperation in his voice. "I was just trying to buy time." "Buy time for what?" Emily asked, frozen in disbelief. Michael didn't answer. He just lowered his head. The silence that followed said more than words ever could. The air in St. Mary's grew heavy. A moment ago, it had been filled with smiles and laughter. Now, fear and confusion gripped every guest. The dream wedding had turned into a nightmare. Police officers arrived within minutes. Their footsteps echoed on the marble floor as they approached the altar. "Step away from the table," one officer ordered. The priest pointed to the vial, his voice shaking. "That's it. It smells toxic." One officer put on gloves and held it up to the light. "This isn't medicine," he said slowly. "This looks like chloroacetone, an illegal chemical." A wave of gasps swept through the crowd. Someone whispered, "That stuff's dangerous." Emily's heart dropped. She turned to Michael, her voice breaking. "Why would you have something like that?" Michael's eyes darted around the room. "It's not what you think," he said. "I swear it's not." The officer cut him off. "Save it for the station. You're under investigation for possession of a controlled substance." Murmurs spread. Cameras flashed. Emily felt her legs weaken. The man she loved, the man she was about to marry, stood in handcuffs. Buddy barked once, sharp and deep, snapping her out of her daze. She looked at him through tears. Somehow, he had known. He had sensed danger long before anyone else. As officers escorted Michael toward the door, one of them searched his jacket and pulled out another hidden pouch, sealed and unlabeled. The officer's face hardened. He had more. Emily's breath caught. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this?" Michael's face twisted with guilt. "You weren't supposed to find out," he muttered. "Not like this." Then Buddy growled again, low and steady. Every head turned. His eyes were locked on Ryan, the best man, standing pale at the back of the church. The room fell silent. It wasn't over. Everyone could feel it. Buddy had only exposed the beginning of something much darker. The door slammed shut behind the officers as they took Michael away. His once perfect suit was crumpled, his face pale and empty. Emily stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. "Why, Michael," she whispered, "why bring something like that to our wedding?" He lifted his head slowly, voice shaking. "You don't understand. I wasn't going to hurt you. The chemical wasn't poison. It was meant to make me collapse, just for a while. I needed time." Emily frowned. "Time for what?" He hesitated, his voice cracking. "Time to stop the wedding, without you knowing the real reason." Gasps filled the church. "You begged me to marry you," Emily said, her voice trembling. "You said you loved me." "I did," Michael said, tears running down his cheeks. "But I knew that once we were married, you'd discover the truth, the debt, the inheritance, the lies. I thought if I pretended to faint, I could delay the ceremony, buy a few days to fix everything." Emily covered her mouth, shaking as the truth finally hit her. The fairy tale was gone, and all that remained was the sound of her heart breaking, and Buddy quietly watching, guarding her from whatever truth was still to come. Emily's voice trembled as she looked at him. "You were going to lie to me, even on our wedding day." Michael winced, his voice breaking. "I was desperate, Emily. I never meant for it to go this far." The priest shook his head, disbelief written across his face. "And you would have done this, hey, before God, your family, and the woman who trusted you." Michael looked away, shame flooding over him. "I thought I could control it. But then, that dog," he said, glancing at Buddy. He wouldn't stop. He knew something was wrong. Buddy gave a low growl, not angry, but certain, as if confirming the truth. Emily's tears finally spilled over. "He was protecting me from you." Michael lowered his head, defeated. I never wanted to hurt you, but Buddy saw through me before anyone else did. As the officers led him away, everyone in the church understood. The dog hadn't just interrupted a wedding. He had uncovered a lie that could have destroyed her life. The guests slowly filed out, whispering in shock. The once bright decorations now hung in silence, and the sweet scent of roses filled the still air. Emily sat alone in the front pew, her veil crumpled beside her. Her heart felt heavy, hollow. Buddy sat quietly at her feet, watching her with calm, steady eyes. His body was relaxed now, but his gaze stayed on her face, gentle, protective. Emily reached down and stroked his fur. "You knew," she whispered softly. "You knew before I did." Her mother came up behind her, placing a warm hand on her shoulder. "Honey," she said gently, "that dog saved your life. Maybe not your heartbeat, but your heart." Emily nodded through her tears. "He tried to warn me, and I didn't listen." The memories rushed back, Buddy growling whenever Michael got too close, standing between them during arguments, refusing to take treats from his hand. Even that morning, when he wouldn't eat and kept pacing nervously, she had thought he was acting jealous. But he wasn't. He had been trying to tell her the truth. Emily stroked his head. "I thought you didn't like him," she whispered, "but you were just trying to protect me." Buddy gave a quiet, comforting whine and rested his head on her lap. His warmth pulled her out of the storm. The priest walked over, his voice calm and kind. "Sometimes," he said, "God sends us protectors in unexpected forms. Today, yours just happened to have 4 paws and a brave heart." Emily smiled faintly through her tears. "I don't know what I'd do without him." Outside, the flashing lights of police cars faded as they drove away. The sun dipped lower, shadows stretching across the pews. The church was silent now, except for Buddy's soft, steady breathing beside her. Emily leaned down and whispered into his fur, her voice breaking. "You didn't just stop a wedding, Buddy. You saved me." Buddy wagged his tail once, slow, gentle, full of love. The days that followed blurred together. The story spread fast, first whispers around town, then headlines everywhere. Dog stops wedding, saves bride from dangerous secret. Reporters gathered outside her house, waiting for her to speak. But Emily stayed inside, quiet and guarded. The world saw a scandal. She felt a heartbreak. Her living room was still, the only sound the ticking clock and Buddy's steady breathing by her feet. She sat by the window, watching the rain drizzle down the glass. In the corner, her wedding dress hung untouched, a haunting reminder of what could have been. And she replayed it all, over and over, every warning she'd missed, every truth Buddy had seen before her. The barking, the vial, the confession. Every time Emily replayed those moments in her mind, she came back to the same truth. Buddy hadn't just saved her from deception. He had saved her from a lifetime built on lies. A soft knot broke her thoughts. Her mother stepped in, holding an envelope. "This came from the police," she said quietly. Emily opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a short report confirming that the vial had contained controlled chemical, something that could cause temporary paralysis if inhaled. Exactly as Michael had confessed. A staged collapse. A planned lie. Her chest tightened. He would have gone through with it. She set the letter down, exhaling shakily. "He planned everything," she whispered. Her mother nodded gently. "And Buddy stopped him before it was too late." Emily looked toward the dog lying nearby. "You knew, didn't you? Boy," she said with a tearful smile. "You saw the truth before any of us did." Buddy lifted his head, his tail thumping once against the floor. His deep, kind eyes seemed to understand every word. Later that afternoon, a local reporter came to the house asking for a short statement. Emily hesitated, then glanced at Buddy and nodded. Standing before the camera, she spoke softly, her voice steady but emotional. "People call him a hero, and he is. But Buddy isn't just a dog who stopped a wedding. His family, his proof that love doesn't always come in the form we expect. Sometimes it doesn't wear a ring. Sometimes it has fur and paws and protects you when you can't protect yourself." The clip spread online within hours. Messages poured in from all over the world, people sharing stories about their own loyal dogs, their silent guardians. That night, Emily sat on the porch wrapped in a blanket. The stars shimmered above, and Buddy rested his head on her knee. You saved me, Buddy, she whispered, her voice soft and full of gratitude. You didn't just protect my life, you gave me a second chance at it. Buddy sighed contentedly and pressed closer to her side. For the first time in days, Emily smiled, not as a broken bride, but as someone who had been rescued by love in its purest form. Weeks passed. The house that had once been filled with wedding chatter now felt peaceful, reborn. The white roses had wilted long ago, replaced by sunlight streaming through open windows, warm, forgiving, and full of new beginnings. Emily no longer asked why things had happened the way they did. She had started to understand that some endings exist to protect us from the wrong beginnings. Buddy followed her everywhere, to the porch in the mornings, on quiet walks through the park, and even when she painted in the afternoons. Wherever she went, his steady pulse and loyal gaze reminded her she was never alone. One golden evening, Emily sat on the porch steps with a cup of tea in her hands. The sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. Buddy lay beside her, his head resting against her knee, his tail gently tapping against the wood. She looked down at him with a soft smile. You know, she murmured, I used to think love meant big promises and forever speeches. But now I think it's simpler. It's loyalty. It's showing up when no one else does. Buddy turned his head, meeting her gaze with those soulful amber eyes that seemed to hold the world. You showed me what real love looks like, she whispered. It's trust. It's protection. It's quiet courage. For the first time in weeks, her laughter returned, light, genuine, free. She picked a small daisy from the porch railing and tucked it behind Buddy's collar. You will always be my hero. That night, under a sky full of stars, Emily opened her journal for the first time since the wedding. The words flowed easily. Today, I stopped being the bride left at the altar. I became the woman who was saved by love, the kind that doesn't need vows to be eternal. Buddy stirred beside her, letting out a soft, peaceful sigh. Emily leaned down and kissed his head. Tomorrow was unwritten, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid. She had Buddy, her silent guardian, her truest friend, her new beginning. The next morning, sunlight filled the room. Buddy lay curled beside her bed, calm and content. The world had already moved on from the scandal, but Emily's life had taken a quieter, deeper turn. There were no wedding bells now, only peaceful mornings, long walks, and a bond word could never fully describe. As she sat by the window, a letter in her lap, her voice trembled with emotion. It was from the hospital where she once volunteered, and it would lead her toward the next chapter of her life. The letter in Emily's hands trembled slightly as she read the final lines. The hospital where she had once volunteered was launching a new therapy program, pairing rescue dog with trauma survivors, and they wanted her to come back and help lead it. She smiled through tears, whispering softly, "Looks like the world needs more heroes like you, Buddy." Buddy lifted his head, his ears perked, tail wagging gently, as if he understood every word. The camera panned slowly to Emily's face as she turned toward it, her eyes glistening with warmth. "You know," she began, voice calm but full of emotion, "we always think dogs need us, for food, for love, for shelter. But sometimes it's us who need them more." She looked down at Buddy, who sat proudly beside her, his fur shining in the afternoon light. "They don't speak our language," she continued, her voice trembling slightly, "but they understand our silence. They sense danger before we see it, pain before we feel it, and love before we even realize we deserve it." From inside the house came the soft laughter of her mother, the sound of a home slowly healing. Emily smiled, her shoulders relaxing for the first time in weeks. She looked back into the camera. "He didn't just stop my wedding. He stopped me from making the biggest mistake of my life. He saw the truth when I couldn't. That's what makes our bond so special. It's built on trust, not words." The camera zoomed in slightly as she reached down and placed a small flower crown gently on Buddy's head. "He's not just my dog," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's my guardian, my family, my angel." Buddy wagged his tail, leaning against her leg, eyes half closed in quiet joy. The screen faded slowly to a warm, golden montage, Buddy running through the park, chasing leaves. Buddy resting beside Emily as she painted by the window. Buddy sleeping peacefully with his head on her lap. Emily's voice returned, soft and reflective, carried over the images. Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't between people. They are between a soul and the one who protects it. So cherish them, listen to them, and never, ever take their instincts for granted. The final scene showed Emily and Buddy walking down a quiet country road, bathed in golden light, their silhouettes fading into the horizon. Woman and dog, side by side, free at last. And then, her closing words appeared on screen. Calm, sincere, unforgettable. If you were moved by Buddy's story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because every story we tell on is a silent heroes who walk beside us, reminding us that love, in its truest form, never needs words.